you have. Yeah, you have. Clan took a selfie in my bathroom.
I really did.
It's not even a joke. He did. I don't know why.
I took a selfie outside your bathroom, and then I forgot to take a selfie with you.
That's crazy.
All right. So let's get into this, guys. First and foremost, everybody, this is a new podcast that we're starting called Views from the Rafters. Because y'all know, as Spurs fans, you know, there are people we look up to, but given our success, there's a lot of people we look down on because we're sitting up on top of 5 championship banners in the Rafters. So this is Views from the top right here. Kind of wanted to start off, let's introduce everybody. Obviously, you know me, I'm Harrison. I go by Swisheel on YouTube. Go sub. I like to do a lot of draft stuff. We've got Maddie, who's our resident Spurs ranter in general, coming at you with some hot takes, unbiased takes, and just some fiery passion for the team. We've got Impeccabull, the man, the myth, the legend, the suave monster himself, the guy who could take you out for a nice seafood dinner, then beat the shit out of you if you say something wrong there.
That's true.
I don't really know that for a fact. I just made that up, but it feels like it fits. But no, Impeccabull is a man of tremendous brain power and tremendous logic, so he always brings really solid takes. And then we have Clan.
Hey,
Wait a minute. His other nickname is Captain Mid. That is also what he likes to go by, supposedly.
That is so mean.
Captain Mid.
Wait, Clan put Harrison channel on the channel. Oh, okay. Yeah. Got you.
Oh, yeah. Throw that shit up there. Feel free to subscribe to all of us. I know Impeccabull right now, y'all don't have any videos on your channel quite yet, but if everyone gives some encouragement, Impeccabull may make a channel, and I think he could and should.
It's gonna happen. It's gonna happen.
It has to, man. You got 2 good takes to not have a channel. And as always, Maddie's back on Twitter. He's finally back.
Why'd you leave?
Oh man, Twitter is such a toxic place, and I'm already like regretting getting back on. But I mean, it's going to depend on whether or not I stay is going to depend on the Spurs offseason, and if they have a good offseason or not will largely dictate whether or not I decide to keep it.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so let's jump right into it, because this is actually, I've kind of refrained from tweeting too, because I've been kind of disappointed with like things people are going back and forth saying on Twitter, shit like that. I understand there's lots of disagreements on there. I just don't like people policing the way other people fan about a team, and all that kind of stuff. And I feel like people were trying to police the way Maddie views the team, and like, I mean, for God's sake, man, if you're going to say that Maddie's not a fan because he thinks one thing about the team and you think the other, you're sorely mistaken, man. I've known Maddie a while. The guy loves his Spurs. So that said, what are y'all seeing as far as, the season just came to an end? How are we feeling about that game against New Orleans? Like, what first sticks out to us there?
Oh, go ahead, Maddie.
I was gonna say Impeccabull should go first since he was the last to join.
I go last. I go first. So that game went about as well as expected. We got beat up pretty badly. We fought throughout the entirety of the game, which I was actually going to tell you guys. I was predicting that despite how much we were down, I was thinking that we were going to end the game around like down by only like 5 points. And it was kind of, I don't know, it was kind of representative for the entire season as a whole. Like, we fought, we weren't the most talented team, we weren't the most well put together team. However, we were going to fight 100% of the time, and we were going to at least make it close. But that being said, statistically, we're the least clutch team in the entire NBA this year. I don't know if those stats actually changed by last time I checked it, but I know I checked it about a month out from when the season was ending. It was pretty far between us and number 2. So, really and truly, that game really was representative for our entire season as a whole. And it didn't it didn't really tell me anything I didn't know. However, it was still disappointing to really go out like that, especially because you see how hard the guys went in after the play and everything. But because of the position that we're in for the offseason, I'm still pretty hopeful that we can turn the ship around before it's too late.
Well, and let me ask Impeccabull, because I know we talked about this a little bit in like our private chats. What was your thoughts? I know Clan's been taking a lot of heat for his position on the tank versus play-in. Obviously, it doesn't matter anymore per se because we've already gone through the play-in. What were your thoughts on that? You know, were you looking for us to make the play-in, or did you feel like we should have just threw it in the towel a little bit earlier?
Well, I think we kept it honest. That's the best way I can put it. We kept it honest versus other teams in the league, which can tell you a little bit about our way our organization operates, but also just because of how we think about the game. We kept it honest. We played every game with the intention of winning, which is what every NBA team should try to do. However, the teams that are in the lottery with us did not do the same things, and I feel as though for long-term investment of the team, we probably should have did what our teams did. We probably should have went after the pick. We should have tried to get the best pick possible. The play-in kind of showed that we have a lot of holes or a lot of discrepancies with our play. Personally, I feel like we should have gone for a pick, but I am not mad that we go for the play-in. I think it's respectable, and it's very honorable that we went after the play-in as hard as we did. But it was kind of like, okay, you get to the play-in, and then what? If you beat the Pelicans, then what? You get into the playoffs, and then what? You know, and I understand that a lot of fans are saying experience.
Stupid.
What experience did the guys get out of that play-in game?
That's what I'm saying.
Yeah,
we got dog walked most of the game.
Yeah, you got nothing from that. Like I didn't understand that at all, man. Because I mean, honestly, my main thing with the whole experience thing is not that it's a bad thing. I think that experience is obviously a good, tangible thing that you need. But at the same time, you have to at least make that first step where you have the guys good enough or that you know is going to be on the team to get the experience. Like some people brought up OKC with KD and Westbrook and Harden. And I'm like, yeah, their experience meant something. If you're talking about Giannis team and they were like, oh, what about the Bucks? Yeah, their experience meant something, but you need to take that first step and get superstars and have your team define, which this, you know, that this is the team you're going to go to battle with every single night. But right now, we don't know who's going to stay on this team. Like,
and dude, it's like, and like Maddie, feel free to chime in because we've been talking about this forever, man. Like in our own private texts, like it's great that we made the play-in, but I felt like it was a little bit overblown because while yes, we were winning games, we were playing against teams that just flat out gave up. I mean, Portland. I mean, Damian Lillard's out for the season. Did you see some of the starting lineups Portland was putting out there? I mean, they had Drew Eubanks as their starting center, and we're very familiar with him. I mean, OKC put out a lineup with like 4 10-day players in it and all that. And the funny thing is, we still had a really close game with OKC. So that's where I was a little concerned about it being overblown, is I wasn't so sure that we were actually playing better to end the season or just playing against worse teams and teams that had thrown in the towel. And it gets confusing in there with like wins against Denver, but then a hard-fought battle against a terrible OKC team. So that's where I was a little concerned there.
Yeah, it got to the point towards the end of the season where I'm like, all right, we're here, might as well go for it. But yeah, we talked about all the time, like we played the Trailblazers 3 times in like the last 10 games or something, when they had like one of the worst starting lineups I think I've ever seen in my life. I mean, the teams below us, I mean, they just gave up. They didn't care about the play-in. And then there was the Lakers, and that's one of the few bright spots for me. Is like, all right, hey, at least we finished ahead of the Lakers. That's always a plus. If we finish 14th and they finish 15th, to me, that right there is a win. But yeah, I mean, there's no use crying over spilt milk. I mean, the play-in game itself didn't tell us anything that we didn't already know. And that's that the Spurs have a significant talent deficit compared to a lot of teams in the NBA, and particularly in the Western Conference. I mean, for those who are, just screaming about how building around DJ and Keldon, I'm going to ask you honestly, like, ask yourself honestly if you think that DeJounte and Keldon will be able to compete with the likes of John Morant, Luka Doncic, Zion Williamson if he returns and is finally healthy. The Phoenix Suns, even the Warriors are still going to be top dog for a few years. The Nuggets are going to be back with Jamal Murray. Like, we don't, as is, we absolutely do not have enough, and we did need the play-in game to tell us that. Now everything's kind of hinging on this offseason, and I'm not going to go into that right now. I'm sure that'll be our next segment. I'll let kind of somebody else go first here, but everything's hinging on this offseason. So we got plenty to talk about there. So I'll wait to get my offseason take as we go around again.
I just want to say really quick, I agree with Maddie and Impeccabull that I learned nothing from this game. I learned that a lot of Spurs fans haven't been watching the games because it's so many people that were excited for that play-in game. I was like, why? Like, if you watch this team, you know what's about to happen. Like, this team isn't good enough. And honestly, the Pelicans, they were in a position where, yeah, them winning kind of makes sense for them. But for us, where that experience come in, it made sense for them. They already have the Lakers picks. They're good. But with us, it was like, why do you want to? Why do you want to grind this out?
And if New Orleans wins again against LA, they get one of Portland's picks, I believe. I think it's like pick number 14. So
oh wow,
it benefits them to win in that scenario. But I mean, like you said, man, and to Impeccabull's credit, he was saying this before the game. It's just we didn't learn much from that game that we weren't already saying. I mean, what we saw there is one, that there's little to no offense when DeJounte Murray comes off the floor. If he gets into foul trouble or anything, they're screwed. I mean, we've been saying it. I know Destin Clan's been taking a lot of heat for talking about Keldon, and I don't mean it as disrespect to Keldon. It's just from what we've seen from him, he's a decently one-dimensional player. I mean, he can get his threes off if somebody like Murray has a little bit of gravity and gives him time to wind up on them, but once Murray leaves the floor, he's not a guy who's going to shot create. And it turned into him putting his head down, barreling into crowds, using that same spin move he does, and just kind of chucking the ball at the rim. And granted, that works for him sometimes, but that ain't something you can rely on, and things like that. And I mean, Jakob kind of disappears when Murray's not in the game. And one thing there with Murray in the game, he was not finishing well at the rim, and that's been a trend throughout his career. I love DeJounte Murray. I absolutely think he's a great player, but that has been a trend. And like we said, he's one of those guys, he does not like to give up easily, which power to him. But when those bunnies aren't falling and you keep trying to take them, and on top of that, nobody else can really contribute offensively, that'll kill your team right there. I mean, tell me if I'm off base, Impeccabull. Is that a little bit like what we were saying before the game?
No, I mean, that's exactly what we were saying about before the game. Just to comment on Keldon and DJ specifically, because I think, and I want to touch also on Devin. Well, I'll touch on it right after. DJ does a lot of things well. Can do a lot of things well on the court. And granted, he was coming off of a sickness in which he lost 7 to 8 pounds in the time that he was sick. Mm-hmm. So, and you can assume some of that might be water weight, but also some of that probably is whatever mass he has on his frame. But there isn't that much mass on his frame, which is probably actually one of his problems. GJ can get to the rim. He's not the fastest guard in the league, but he's not slow. And but his finishing has always been a problem, and it's partially because he doesn't have quite enough lift to get off some of the moves that he wants to get off. But he also doesn't quite have enough strength to also get off some of the moves he wants to get off as well. So that puts him in a dangerous predicament anytime he gets to it, which is why the mid-range shot has become such a big part of his game. It can look like he's settling, but really and truly, that's his best shot at scoring, is he gets to the mid-range and he can score in that area. It's a lot easier for him to do that than drive to the rim 100% of the game and get okay to decent finishes. And when you look at it, he's the only real self-creator on this squad. I know that we want to point to guys like maybe Lonnie can self-create, but even then, I've watched Lonnie, and that mid-range shot that he goes to a lot of games does not fall. So besides him and Primo's still very young. I haven't seen enough from Primo to really say he's a big self-creator yet either. So besides DJ, who else is self-creating on this team? Keldon. What can I say about Keldon? I love Keldon. However, Keldon he has a good game from three. When he is able to load up, he can finish at the rim. When he's able to do what he wants to do at his spots, he is an effective player. But the problem with Keldon is he has no way of getting to his spots. He's not quick enough with his feet to get to his spots. He doesn't have a strong enough dribble or handle to get to his spots. So then that puts him into the place of he has to have a guard or a player essentially get him the ball in his spots at 100% of the time. And if he doesn't have that, well, then he can become, as you saw against the Pelicans, I wouldn't even say a subpar player, just a flat out just ineffective player.
Well, dude, and to your point there, I'll bring this up because you brought up quickness. That's another really important thing. Like, all these guys are fast in transition, but quickness and acceleration. One thing that I noticed that hinders Murray a lot, and I think really separates him from some of the elite guards, Murray does not have a very explosive first step.
No.
If you watch, he gets caught a lot on the backside by shot blockers coming to get him. And I think that's a lot of why his percentage at the rim is lower than what it is. And people will get mad at me. I'll just throw this out because I do think he was a much worse player this year. But Russell Westbrook, even at his worst, if you watch a couple of his Laker games, there's a couple of those plays where he can just, if he gets a step, he can absolutely blow by some guys. Ja Morant is insanely explosive off that first step. And that's what gives me hope with a guy like Joshua Primo, is he has that gene in him. He's insanely quick off that first step and catch. He's still got a lot to learn, and he's still not as good as DJ and Keldon quite yet. But I think that's going to hinder both of them, is sometimes lack of quick decision making and just lack of, like you said, being able to get to spots and do it quickly. Because there's a lot of quick players in the NBA that can keep up with you if you mess around and don't do what you're supposed to be doing.
That's facts. I was saying this about Primo, because like I'm so high on Primo, and I keep saying that I think Primo's going to be a superstar. I think he's going to be a star. And
dude, you've said that about how many of the Spurs young guys?
But no, I really do mean that about Primo. Like, all the other guys right now, like I can sit back and say I'm not 100% sure. Like, maybe Devin Vassell, but honestly, the reason why I say it with Primo is because every attribute, everything that he is good at, I think of it as, okay, what do you do well, and what's kind of the ceiling there? If you could do that well thing or that good thing to great level, then yeah, you could be a potential star. Like, because I look at Keldon Johnson and everything that he does well right now, even if he maxed that out, I don't think that he will be a star. Like, he's a good catch and shoot, and he's good at ramming into the paint. I don't think that if those two things are maxed out, that he will be a star. Like, even if I'm if I try to say, okay, what would it take for him to be a superstar, or what would it take for him to be a star, it'll be way too much that I'll have to add on. He would need handles. He would need better basketball IQ. But, I mean, people say that he's a really great defender. Sometimes I don't see it, to be honest. Sometimes he's a good defender. Sometimes he's not. I don't know. And Brandon Ingram kind of made him look pretty bad, like really bad.
The biggest thing though is, like, we've been saying this stuff over and over again for the last 3 seasons, like, that our core is not really great at going out and getting buckets when they need to. They can collapse sometimes defensively. And I mean, it's like what we said way back in the bubble when we were thinking about Promise. We were still a little hesitant to say, oh my God, this is great, because those fourth quarters, who was getting the buckets for us? DeMar DeRozan. It wasn't any of these guys right there. We were having to rely on him. And granted, yes, it's great that we were able to get back to this same spot without DeMar, but we're in that same predicament. We had, one of our scorers go down, and we had nobody who could just go out and get us a bucket. I say these things about DJ, but I mean, that doesn't mean I want him gone. I absolutely think DJ could be a great point guard for this team and a championship caliber, but I think if DJ is your number one option, you're looking at a long road ahead.
You're done.
I mean,
Yeah.
I mean, you've got to have somebody who can go out, get you a bucket when nobody else can hit the shots, and can spark a run with the team. And while DJ has done that some, he does not have that kind of gravity around him. I mean, compare him to a guy like Jason Tatum or someone like that, or Jaylen Brown even on the Celtics. I mean, they've had times often, obviously before the Derek White trade, they struggled. Their offense would stagnate and they'd have to go to those two to get them buckets, but they were still able to get wins out of those situations, living through those guys. Once they traded for Derek, they upped their defense. They changed their scheme a little bit offensively now that they have a secondary creator, and they're able to move the ball around a little bit. But that's the thing. They've got those guys they can rely on. I don't feel like we quite have those yet.
Yeah. I just want to continue on that thought. There's one thing that came to me while just even thinking about this team is there's a difference between, and I understand that, yes, we play a more systematic style of basketball, but there's a difference between being confined to a system and operating in a system. Right now, as a team, we are confined to a system. We're confined to playing a certain style of way. None of our guys have enough of scoring ability or enough of a self-creating ability to really just get those buckets on their own without plays being really set up for them, besides just DJ. That points to a bigger problem that we have to really try to fix in the offseason if we're trying to go back to the playoffs immediately with any sense of urgency. We don't have anybody that really can score on their own. Even from like Devin Vassell the other night. Devin scored. He got 7 threes off. However, he didn't score anywhere else. He just scored from the 3-point line, which tells you even then he's taking long range shots, but that points more to the catch and shoot than
catch and shoot, not creation.
It was 7 for 13.
7 for 13 from 3, 7 for 15 from field.
Mm-hmm.
So that tells you to tell us what he's not scoring from anywhere else. That's catch and shoot. That points to a severe lack of self creation. I assumed when we drafted Primo, we were drafted him mainly with the concept of self-creation in mind. So in this draft, in which we have the picks that we have, in free agency as well, it would make sense to find people who maybe over even their ability to just play within our system, they have to be able to score on their own. You can't have an entire team based around, it's not the 90s anymore or the 80s where you can have a team that's successful without anybody really being able to create their own shot except one or two players on the team. Guys have to be able to score on their own. And right now the Spurs, besides DJ, and even then, that's a bit spotty at times, especially when things get tight. Not saying he's an unclutch player, but saying that when defenses can lock in on him, key in on him, when he's getting double teamed and there's 3 bodies around him, who else on his team is going to create for themselves? Who else on our team is going to step up? Primo, we can look at Primo and say, maybe he can do that at some point. But Primo's still so young, and even against the Pelicans, he was on the floor and he looked like he wasn't. He looked like he just wasn't ready for the moment. I think he went 0 for 3 in the time, and he got a few minutes out of that game. So really and truly, you have to fix that problem. That's not a DJ problem. That's a San Antonio Spurs problem. I don't want to make it sound like I'm blaming DJ for any of these things. That's a San Antonio Spurs problem. DJ's going to try to do what he can do. He can do a lot, but you have to get him help. It can't just be DJ.
And let's transition into that part of things, the offseason, because like we say all these things, and I like what you just said. None of that is DJ's fault. Every player has their flaws, and DJ's one of those guys. He has flaws, but he's also an exceptional player that we've seen, work his way up, get to be an all-star selection, and really show what he's capable of. So, to me, that screams, hey, we've got this guy. Yes, he does have these certain flaws and all that. What are we going to do here? Are we going to get him some help? How are we going to treat this? So, Maddie, I'll start with you, man, because we've been talking about this a lot. I know I feel like this is kind of the do or die off season in terms of picking a direction, whether we stick with this group or whether we tear it down. So tell me how you feel about that, man, because I think we agree on that a little bit.
I mean, you already know how I feel. We've been talking like what feels like every day for the past 6 months about this offseason. I mean, everything in regards to the Spurs' future is hinging on this offseason. Because it may not seem like it, but the Spurs really didn't choose a direction this season. They didn't choose to tank. They didn't choose to, go all out and, invest in everything into this season. They kind of just stuck to their guns and what they know how to do, and they just played hard. They competed, and they played to the best of their ability. And look where it got them. It got them 14 games under 500 in a pointless playing game. But this offseason, I mean, I give Brian Wright a lot of credit, man. I've been very critical of him the past couple of years, as you know, Harrison. What I felt like was a lack of moves, a lack of urgency. But, I mean, you hit the nail on the head. He's been setting himself up for this offseason, and everything just points to this offseason being the difference maker for the team going forward. I mean, we know he has a wish list of guys. We know he's going to be aggressive. If we don't land anything, it's not going to be for a lack of trying. It's going to be for just a lack of guys either not wanting to accept our money and come here, or, teams, if in trade, are just, offering pennies on the dollar. They're offering pennies in exchange for our dollars, and we're just, we don't want to be lowballed. So it's really going to depend on this offseason. I mean, we know DeAndre Ayton's going to be a restricted free agent, and we know that we're going to be aggressive in pursuing him. But is Phoenix going to be willing to match him? We don't know. Zach LaVine's another name on the market, with the Chicago Bulls, who are likely going to get swept by the Bucks in the first round, if not 5. So is he going to want out? And if he does, would he be willing to come here, maybe take a pay cut to play alongside DeAndre Ayton and DeJounte Murray? Kyle Anderson's another name on the market that we've talked about, who would fit in great, because we need that forward depth, especially defensively. We have a bundle of draft picks, both this year and in the future. What are we going to do with those? There's so many questions, and we have so many different avenues we can take, both in the trade and free agency market. I mean, we could feasibly go completely one direction or the other. We could honestly build the foundations to start a new dynasty. I'm not saying next year and win a championship next year, but set up the foundations for a new Spurs era of getting back in the playoffs and maybe winning a championship within the next decade or so. Or we could go the complete other route and just completely tear down the foundations. I'm talking the likes of tearing down everything. Keldon, DeJounte, Jakob, nobody's safe. Just tear it all down and have an Oklahoma City Thunder, Houston Rocket type rebuild. I pray that doesn't happen. I literally am praying that doesn't happen, because that's just awful for us fans. But I'm telling you, this offseason, everything is hinging on this offseason. Because if they run it back with this group, I will be driving down to San Antonio from Wisconsin, opening night, protesting outside of Brian Wright's house, protesting outside of the AT&T Center. I will starve myself in front of the AT&T Center until actual change is made, if they choose to run it back, because that will be completely unacceptable. I don't think that's going to happen, but I doubt that's going to happen one way or the other. But if that does happen, I mean, I hope people are going to join me in my protests, and because that would be a slap in the face to the fans.
I'll pick it with you, man. But I mean, I feel like you're right. Especially, I see a lot of people that say, and they're right, that DJ's got clout in the league. Guys like him around the league. He talks to a lot of people, and it's time. We've got cap space. We've got picks. It's now or never to figure out. Let's get some names around him. Let's get some guys that fit around him, and let's do this thing. Let's start moving towards winning again and getting back in the playoffs. And I'm with you. I don't think we can go out and have another free agency where we just sign a couple role players here and there. We've done that, and that hasn't worked. We need to go out and pursue somebody. We need to look at the trade market. We need to look. I know not a lot of teams will ever trade top draft picks, but if we don't get lucky in the lottery, we've at least got to see what people are willing to look at to move up in the draft for our picks and stuff like that. Because I agree. I think DJ could be a championship point guard, but not with the team as is. And if we whiff on this offseason, I think you're absolutely right. You're looking at a complete tear down and start over, because after that, you're going to have guys, time to get paid, locked into contracts, not as many draft picks on the board. Either that, or you're stuck with these 3 draft picks where you've got 3 rookies who by the time that they're ready to go, it might be DJ exiting his prime, and then your window with him is closed.
Yeah.
I don't know what you think, Clan.
Hold on. I just want to interject here. One quick point, last point before Clan goes. Like, as far as the trade market goes, we have tradable assets. I mean, I would love for Josh Richardson to stay. Honestly, I think he's been fantastic. I think everybody wants him to stay right now, but he's also can get you back a lot of value. So I'm sure they're going to kind of tinker and see what they can get back for him. I think Josh Richardson makes Doug McDermott expendable. Doug McDermott definitely can get you back something decent. Jakob Poeltl, I know we all love him, but if depending on who we land in free agency or trade, he's a guy that could be expendable and get you back a lot, because most teams, if not all, are going to look at him as a starting center in the NBA. So we have a lot of tradable assets, not just in our draft picks, but in our current players as well, especially guys that we know aren't going to be a part of this team for the long haul. So go ahead, Clan.
Yeah, no, I was going to say the Spurs can have both. Like, I don't necessarily think you have to have one or the other. I think that they could literally, with all of these picks, because I mean, they got all these picks for a reason. I don't think you have to go the whole OKC route necessarily. I will say this: you don't have a player to build around right now. Like, even though I'm super high on what Primo can be, he's not that now, and I'm not expecting him to be that for the next couple years. So you can't just have the mindset to build around him. And DeJounte Murray, he's the type of player where he has a lot of good tools in his toolbox. But if you're going to be the superstar, you really need to be able to really affect the game with your shot creation at all times. You need to be a dynamic scorer, and he's not that. So I think that the Spurs, with all these picks that they have, we have a lot of leverage. We have a lot of cap space. They can do both. They can have their cake, eat it. They can do both. You can literally get some really great players in this draft that you can potentially eventually build around. And I mean superstar talent. And then going into, this offseason as far as free agency, you can get an Ayton. You will have enough space to get an Ayton. And you can get Zach LaVine, as you talked about. And that would automatically put you back in the playoff contention, playoff race. And yeah, you can still build those three guys or whatever that you get out of the draft, along with Primo. Devin Vassell's still growing. And they can get that experience that actually would mean something, because now you have stars on the team. Now you have guys that are going to legitimately be there through championship runs, potentially, hopefully. So, yeah, I think you can do both. I think this offseason is going to be huge. And honestly, unfortunately, I don't think that we'll get this chance again, because this team, they're good enough to be mediocre. And yeah, I don't know if our draft picks are definitely going to make us better. So we're going to be right back where we are next season if the draft picks don't pick up, or if we don't get anybody in the free agency that's any good. So I think this is our one shot, and I think we need to take it. But I don't think, I'll be honest, all honesty, I don't think you can build around DJ. I mean, I don't think that makes any sense.
Well, I see. Well, just to counter just a bit on the entire build around DJ thing. I think you can build around him, seeing in mind that he can be like Swisheel said, he can be a championship point guard. He can be a playoff point guard. He can be your starting point guard on a relatively good team. But you can't bear in mind that he's going to be your best player, or the player who's going to carry you to a championship.
Well, I thought.
Player who's going to
wait, I thought that would be building around him though.
When I hear build around, I always think about him when I hear the word build around, I think of it in the terms of, this is a cornerstone piece. This is a foundational piece. You only have 2 or 3 of those guys on your team. If you mention yeah, he's your best player, then yeah, of course not.
See, I thought when I hear build around, I think build around as in you get players around him that complements him.
Like he's the focal point of the. Yeah, well then yeah, of course not.
Yeah, that's what I think. Like you get it like Trae Young, like you build around Trae Young. You get Duncan, obviously, Giannis. You build around Giannis. You get guys around Giannis that can shoot, threes. LeBron James, same thing. Like you build. I don't see how you could build around DJ. Like DJ can be somebody who's going to be with the team long term, but I don't know if you can.
Yeah, but the thing is, we don't have one of those guys yet to build around. So you gotta make do with what you have. So I mean, I do get his point. Like you have to be able to build the team with that guy in mind, not necessarily already having him. So while DJ may not be the number one option, you've got to keep him in mind as, here's how he's going to fit next to guys like that, and you can feasibly go out and get people that play well around him and would also play well around your idea of that franchise cornerstone.
Are we? Well, I guess it wouldn't matter. I was gonna say, are we talking about lottery or free agency?
Well,
Both.
It can be both. I mean, you have to look at San Antonio and say, well, even there's worse teams than us who have a guy that they're building around. You know, the Pistons. When you look at I don't want to say OKC, but they could. They have guys that they could build around, feasibly build around, like Swisheel said. Like, there are teams in the league who have that guy. San Antonio does not currently have that guy. DJ is fantastic. DJ, I like everything that he does because he does a bit of everything. But at the same time, you need a number one option. I think the big thing that they management has noticed the last like 2 years really is that besides when we had DeMar, we did not have that option. We didn't have a guy that we were looking at saying, yeah, he can be that person in a couple of years. And I think there's been a little bit of an avoidance of that because the last time that we had that really and truly was Kawhi. And ever since Kawhi left, it was DeMar. And ever since DeMar left, it's kind of been a vacancy. There hasn't really been that specific option, you know? And that's not me even hating on DJ or saying that DJ isn't anything. He's great. But at the same time, you saw how far, to a certain extent, DJ by himself with pieces that don't fit around him. And I think that's another thing that we've noticed is we have pieces, we have players, we have guys, we have names, but they don't really fit together all that well.
So
once you trade Derek White, we fit together a bit better because at least guys had defined roles. But even in the playing game, it was a lot of just it felt very segmented, and that's how the team feels a lot of the time. It's very segmented. There's segments of the team that fit together, but some of the other pieces don't fit together.
Exactly.
What would fit with DJ?
I don't know, a pick and roll big man that can catch a lob.
Yeah, lob threat over the top. You need a power forward who's an offensive stretch and can score kind of all around the basket and in the mid range. I mean,
that's
we're
like
doing
every
all right
team.
with like our wings.
That's like every team.
Even like a post-up power forward or a post-up center, a guy who can score on his own in the post, but also stretch it a bit, but also pass the ball just a bit. Not asking for Jokic, but saying somebody who understands how to create their own shot, also how to play off the pick and roll, which is mainly why I want to draft, specifically in the draft.
Well, we need look, we can talk about, guys that, can fit like scheme wise, like, oh, he can run the pick and roll effectively, or, he's a 42% effective 3-point shooter. We can talk about that, that stuff all day long. But Harrison, we said it, and and Impeccabull and Destin, we said it in the chat. What we need an alpha. We need a level 1, tier 1 guy. We don't have that. DeJounte and Keldon are like tiers, I'd say 3 and 4 at best. Maybe you could argue DJ's tier 2, but I think the playing game, I know I'm not trying to take too much away from one game. I mean, you can't ignore the fact that in 2 playing games, he's 9 for 36. So in the 2 biggest games of his career with the spotlight on him, he completely shrunk. Again, I know it's a very small sample size. I'm not trying to overreact to just that. But look, the point still stands. This team needs an alpha. I'm not saying like they're obviously going to land him in free agency or trade or anything, but like, Giannis, KD, Steph, LeBron, I'm not saying that good, but just that kind of player, maybe just a notch below. Like, I don't know how that's going to happen. I mean, I don't know, like I said, if Zach LaVine or DeAndre Ayton can kind of be that, fill that void. I don't know if we're just going to have to get lucky, like we've been saying, Harrison, in like the draft, like the Bucks with Giannis, or I'm trying to think of who else we talked about, but you get my point. Like, we need that player, that alpha dog that we all thought was once upon a time was going to be Lonnie. Like, we need that. I don't care about this guy can, shoot the pick and roll jumper effectively at 42.3%. Like, we need an alpha. We need a top tier dog, and we need him bad, because if we don't get that, all of this talk is going to be for nothing, and we're going to be stuck where we're at for the significant future. I want
to say I completely agree with Maddie. Like, I understand like getting a pick and roll player, a guy that can catch lobs, but that's like that's like every team, right? Like teams that won championships. I mean, unless we're talking about maybe the Warriors, where not necessarily, but they had McGee when they won, right? The last one, did they have McGee?
McGee at one point, yeah.
Yeah, I was just saying, my main thing is, I think when we talking about build around a player, I think that is somebody that can complement DJ for sure. Like he could use that. He obviously utilized it with Jakob, and he gets a lot of his assists that way off the pick and roll. But I just don't think that that's necessarily something that is essential for, like, obviously you need that, but that's almost like every team kind of needs that. I think we just need a guy who's a dynamic scorer and who's that guy. And I'm hoping, obviously I keep saying it, but Primo, he has the attitude, he has the skill set that he can grow into that. But until then, yeah, we just need that. Well, I mean, I don't care what position that is. And then that will be a guy I build around.
Well, I mean, to your point, Clan, like you're saying, yeah, that's every team. I mean, it is. Like if you look at that Warriors team we were just talking about, no, maybe not like the high flying big, but you know, they had a ball handler who had gravity, they had a spot up shooter, they had a 3-and-D wing, they had a 4 who could D up and stretch the floor and handle, do a little bit of everything. And then Andrew Bogut for a while was that stalwart guy setting those hard screens for their pick and rolls. I mean, you look at the Sixers when they're at their best, they've got Joel Embiid kind of doing a little bit of everything. They have their point guard play. I mean, that's what they say fell apart with Ben Simmons and all of that, was just not being able to play make the correct way with Embiid and get that team going. I mean, you look at the Bucks, they've got Brook Lopez when he's out there setting these stalwart screens. He kind of plays that stretch role while Giannis gets to play the inside as the 4. So they do it reverse, but they've got one big man in, one big man out. And yeah, I know Bogut just admitted to setting a bunch of moving screens. That was funny, but I mean, hey, he got away with them. But like Denver, they've got Jokic. He does a little bit inside and out. And then they have Aaron Gordon who can do a little bit inside and out. That they've got, when he's healthy, they've got that point guard in Jamal Murray. They've got your spot up shooters on the wings and things like that. And you're, I mean, granted, Michael Porter Jr. has been out most of the year, but you know, there's your spot up shooter, good defender. It's a formula in this modern league, and I think it's a formula we need to try to replicate a little bit. You know, obviously they've been kind of trash this year, but the Hawks, they tried to replicate that same kind of Warriors formula. And I'll give you, the other night against the Hornets, the Hawks looked incredible after a terrible season. I mean, they ran them out of the building with that same formula. Yeah, man. Like Clint Capella, when he's playing that over-the-top lob threat, gobbling up those rebounds, setting those screens for Trae Young, and then they've got Kevin Huerter hitting, DeAndre Hunter's playing like that Harrison Barnes role. I mean, they looked unstoppable. Like we have a couple pieces to get there. We just, like we said, we need those guys.
And it won't matter if, like, the guy that you're talking about, like that power forward that can kind of shot create, be kind of a pillar of offense. It won't matter. Because I just think about LaMarcus Aldridge, and we would still need somebody who can be, like Maddie said, you know, an alpha. We don't really have that. We don't have a guy that.
Well, the thing with LaMarcus was, how many times did you see him play off ball and go out for the 3? Even when he said he was going to change his game, he really didn't. You know, that last season.
That was the last season, though, right?
Yeah, I know, but when I think of Aldridge with the Spurs, I think of trying to move the ball and everything, and him just sitting on the block, calling for it to turn around and take his fadeaway jumpers. Well, how many times you hear fans screaming at him to go to the rim or to clear out of the paint so we can move the ball? And how many times do we have Leonard bumping into him on shots and DeMar bumping into him on drives to the basket? Like the plan was there with that, but I don't feel like that was a fully good execution of that.
That's true.
I agree.
That's true.
Yeah, I mean, I think LA even to what you're voicing, I think he kind of skewed our perception of what a power forward or a primary scorer at the 4 is supposed to do. LA, by all means, didn't play system basketball, really. He played his game, which is very ISO dependent, very get to my spot, I will score. I'm not really going to even pass it back out. If I pass it back out, it's for you to pass me back the ball so that I can get to my spot and score. And sometimes it would work, and it was good for 20, 22, 23 a night. But at the same time, when it didn't work, when he got keyed in on defense and nobody else was really able to do anything, that's when we saw it create a lot of trouble. His off-ball play was never really there. And that's because, and that's the main reason actually why he even came to Spurs, because he thought he was going to have that opportunity all of a sudden with Tim going out, Kawhi not being what he became the immediate season after he signed, essentially. He ran from Portland basically under the assumption that, guess what, Damian Lillard is here. He kind of does what I do at the guard position. I'm not really trying to even bump heads. I want to be the number one option. I want to be the main scorer. I don't really want to bump heads with him on offense or on anywhere else. So I'm going to go to a team in which I feel as though I could be the number one scoring option. Mm-hmm. So that goes into the entire thing. What we're at now, we have complementary players. We have guys that are supposed to complement a main player. We don't have a supplementary player. We don't have that guy that we're really gonna say, this is our cornerstone, our rock, the foundation of what this team is built off. DJ does a lot of those things, but he is like the peak of the complementary. And then you have tertiary players under him, like a Devin Vassell, like a Jakob Poeltl, who do things, but don't do them at such a level that you can really say, yeah, if I was to lose this guy, this is going to break the team. They do great things that raise the ceiling of the team and raise the floor of the team, but we don't have that real trendsetter on the team right now that is supposed to be that guy that we're building around. We're supposed to do that, use the draft to find that guy, and you would hope to do it in free agency, but then free agency is a risk, especially when you are a smaller market team. So really and truly, your best bet is doing it through the draft, and with we have the 9th pick in the draft right now. We have a 20% chance of getting a higher pick, but who knows how that entire thing. You're looking at being close, but not really where you want to be, especially in a draft like this, where the biggest thing, the biggest selling point of this draft is the power forward position.
Hey, can we talk about Lonnie Walker?
Yeah. Let's hit on that, because I know we all had some feelings there. Maddie, take it away, man, because I know you've got some words for him and some words just about everything going on there.
Yeah, I mean, look, everybody in the chat that didn't see him, assuming everybody did, liking tweets after the game about how Lonnie needs to play more, just some real childish. I mean, I get it. I mean, I've been in that spot. I know what it's like, but man, you're in the NBA and professional. And honestly, if I have one thing to say about that, I'd say he's got some damn nerve. Like, he's got some damn nerve to pull some childish crap like that. And I mean, I know it's not the biggest deal in the world, but like, man, you've been on the team for 4 years, and you've had nothing but chances for like the past almost 2.5, you could argue, and you've done absolutely nothing with it. Like, he's shown what he's capable of, but he's shown that he's not capable of being consistent. I remember in the 2020-2021 season, I always go to the Bucks game I always go to is when the Spurs are in town, obviously. And I watched this man drop 32 points, 34 points, like casually, in a close, neck and neck game against the future NBA champs last season. And then the next game, I kid you not, he dropped 4 points. That is the story of Lonnie's career as a Spur. It is the most frustrating, like, unexplainable thing I've ever seen. You look at his, you go on the Spurs app and you look at his scoring stats and you scroll through. I mean, my God, it's 6, 4, 8, 10, 7, and then 22, 23, 18, 20. 4, 3, 7, 9, 12. There's no consistency with this guy. You literally never know what you're going to get, and it's frustrating because you've seen what he's capable of, but he just has shown that he's not capable of being consistent. He doesn't have a consistent bone in his body, and time after again, he's had opportunities. He's just come out flat, and I don't know if it's a mental thing or if he just doesn't have confidence in himself, whatever. But I mean, he just hasn't shown anything. And he's going to be a restricted free agent this offseason. So, in my eyes, if another team offers him money, let him go. If nobody does and he's willing to sign for a really, really cheap deal, I mean, keep him maybe. But honestly, I'd rather see him walk at this point. Well,
and Maddie, to your point, you brought out consistency. And, this is it was where we were talking the other night. We're all in a chat together talking during this Pelicans game, and Lonnie comes out, hits a couple shots, and we're like, okay, like he's one of the only advantage creators we have on this team who could go out and get his own shot. But then talking about consistency, if you look at him on the defensive end, holy crap. Trey Murphy and Herb Jones were running all over him on defense. It was missed assignment after missed assignment, ball watching on backdoor cuts, like rookie mistakes. And, that he's getting pulled for that, and we didn't see him play a whole lot. But, I mean, you're right, man. We've seen, granted, Clan and I were having an argument about Tracy McGrady the other day, and I kept using the phrase, look at his full body of work, not just his fourth quarters. And like that's what I'll say about Lonnie is like full body of work. I know everyone gets tantalized because he had a couple of these 20-point games at the end of the season, but I gotta look at his full body of work. The guy shuts down if his shot isn't falling. I mean, and then on top of that, he just looked checked out after the game too. I mean, I'm pretty sure, given his after game comments, he wants nothing to do with San Antonio anymore. His Twitter likes are all free Lonnie. Lonnie should have played more minutes and stuff like that. And I mean, they asked him about next season. He was like, "What's up to my agent?" and all that kind of stuff. I was like, "Good God!" But yeah, I think he's gone too, and I can't say I'm all that unhappy about it. I think it's probably for the best.
I started noticing that he got more and more. I call it like a little bit of arrogance, which I kind of liked because he was playing more aggressive near the end of the season. But his comments after games got way more. It was way different as of late.
Yeah.
And that was definitely one of those comments where he's like, "Oh, take it up with my agents." Which, I mean, if you watch the entire thing, it wasn't that bad. But then when you compile that with the likes of he should get more minutes, and there's no way that was the first time that was ever tweeted for him to have an opportunity to like it or like those type of comments.
I feel like if he
weird.
actually wanted to be back, I feel like he would have said something like, hey, it's up to my agents to get it done, but yeah, I'd love to. He didn't say that. It was just, it's up to my agents. We'll see what happens.
Yeah, I want to be back.
I don't think he really wants to be back.
I wouldn't even say he played offended, really. Like that when I saw how he's playing, when I saw his after the game comments, when I saw his likes on Twitter, I mean, it looked like he was just offended. He was offended that he didn't get more playing time, that he didn't get leaned on more throughout the season, that he feels as though his value isn't being properly treated by San Antonio, which may be, but at the same time, what signs have you really shown? And this isn't even me hating on Lonnie. What signs have you really shown that credits any of those things? Especially where they lean on you for a few games throughout the season, and sometimes you'll drop 20, sometimes you'll drop 15, sometimes you'll drop 27, but other times you'll drop 3 points, 5 points, 6 points, and there'll be no real rhyme or reason for it because you're getting the minutes. And it seems like it's not like a inability or a lack of talent. Mainly, it's a mental blockage. It's overthinking the game. It's making things more complicated than they need to be. It's the avoidance of contact. I mean, it's the small things.
I want to add on to that, because if you guys remember, the reason why he failed to us to begin with, because of the injury situation, because a lot of teams, wasn't sure if he would get injured again. He was injury prone. And even with us, when he first came, he was injury prone. But one thing I want to add is maybe because he definitely played a little more hesitant during that stretch, right? Like when he first came to the league, he was definitely more hesitant. We always wondering, "Oh man, come on, you can do it. It's gonna be all right." But he was always kind of playing a little aback, and I wonder if that just kind of carried him. Not so much that he still is afraid of an injury, but more that it's more of a habit now, like that kind of checking out at certain times. I don't know, but I think as of late, the last month, he's been very good. I would say that he's been really good. I've been enjoying seeing Lonnie play. But then at the same time, man, it's just really strange that your whole attitude changed all of a sudden. Or at least we didn't see this coming to the point now you're kind of voicing your opinion without voicing your opinion. The likes on Twitter was just way weird to me because that was not something that he's done ever. I don't remember.
He did that at the beginning of the season. You remember when they didn't extend him?
He
and
did.
he was like tweeting shit out like, "Oh, they're gonna see," but we did not see. He did the same shit this season that he did last season.
It was the
know.
weirdest thing.
Oh,
It was the weirdest thing in his biggest game of the year. I just want to say this real quick.
Yeah.
His biggest game of the year. I forget how much it was he scored, but it was a really pivotal game. And I remember right as we were winning that game, he started crying. He started tearing up on the side of the court. He was wiping his eyes and everything. You could see the tear stains on his face. I was like, man, he's taking this to heart. He's really emotional and really like he took this game to heart. It's not like just a big performance type of game. It means something to him. And I feel as though really and truly, I don't want to say he's emotional right now, but maybe he's going through things. Maybe he feels some type of way. Maybe he feels like he's disappointed to a certain extent and how his career has gone thus far. Maybe he had higher expectations than what he's provided thus far. And maybe he feels as though he can't really grow into the player he's supposed to be in San Antonio, and that might be the case, honestly. So it's just a weird situation overall with Lonnie Walker. I would assume the Spurs are going to extend the qualifying offer to him so that he becomes a restricted free agent. But as is right now, I have zero clue if they will.
Yeah.
Oh, he's gone.
I think he's gone too. But
yeah,
guys, I'll tell you, Clan's hosting this stream right now. It's storming where he is, and he could very well lose power in the next few minutes. So we're gonna call it right here. We've hit about an hour here, but just to let y'all know, we are gonna be doing this weekly to the best of our abilities. Obviously, life gets in the way sometimes, but we're gonna be trying to do like an hour and a half, just covering. Hell, maybe some of the same things, maybe some different things, just things that hit home to us, things that we've seen that are big issues amongst the Spurs communities on social media. And like I said, it is a podcast, so we'll try to incorporate a couple of chat things in there without making it too much like a regular YouTube live stream. But go sub to the channel. Clan just put the link in the description. Once we get the capabilities, we're gonna be able to stream from that channel directly, and we'll be over there for the most part, and Clan can have his channel back here and keep it popping off like he normally does. But yeah, go give my channel a subscribe at Swisheel on YouTube. Whenever Impeccabull drops his channel, we'll be dropping his links in here too, and then if Maddie decides to roll with the channel, we'll get his links in here. If not, Maddie, what's your Twitter handle?
Oh no, you guys can just good luck finding me.
Oh, shit. Hey, to the FBI agents listening in on this podcast,
good luck.
Catch me if you can.
Oh, just know if you want to find my Twitter, you just log on anytime during a Spurs game, and you'll find my tweets eventually.
But also, hey, Sleepy World just says seems a little late to start a podcast. First, it's never too late to start. Me and Maddie and Destin, we started our first podcast together like about 2.5 years ago, right? In the middle of the COVID stoppage, and it worked out. We're going to cover a lot of things, like, keep it focused on the Spurs, but also some just general NBA topics, general basketball topics, everything there. There's going to be plenty to talk about and plenty to interact with you guys with. So,
in fact, you can say this early because really this is going towards the next season. We're discussing about this season only because it just ended, but really this is going towards next season. So it's pretty early.
It's a perfect time.
Yeah, well, until next time, guys. Clan, hit him with that outro music. Let's get out of here.
Outro music?
I don't know. Don't you have like an outro thing? The stream is ending.
Oh,
you're the one that does this shit, man. Not me.
Man, it's so unprofessional. I swear.
This
music.
Is your channel.
Music has been playing this whole time.
Oh well, hit him with the. You're making me look bad, man. Just hit him with the damn outro. Get my ugly face off the screen.
Yeah. All right, y'all. I'll give it to you later. I love those guys. Yeah. Hey, seriously though, everybody join. Go subscribe to the. This is kind of weird because I wanted to end it, but I can't end it because the Clan the Spurs Fan thing. I don't know. We'll figure it out. We're gonna figure it out. That was fun. But yeah, we're gonna do a podcast every week, and like I said before, where is it? Yeah, here it is. Did any of you guys even subscribe to it? Oh, you guys suck so much, but so much. Only 10 more people subscribe to it. Only 17. You ruined my perfect outro. Good night, Step Clan. Guys, can you go subscribe to this? Please go subscribe to this. I know it's no videos yet, but we just recorded the first video technically, and we're gonna start adding it on there. So go subscribe to our channel.